Thank you, we gotta go.
You are not dismissed. You are not dismissed.
That's right, we have a teacher, no, okay. Bad leader. So, Gypsy Jazz, where did it come from? Does anyone know? It kind of started in an old style called musette or valse in France, in Paris. So those were like minuets. It'd be like dance halls, and they would have a feel like a waltzette. And that is kind of like the origin of Gypsy Jazz, is actually those kind of waltzes.
When was that in history, Craig?
Well, let's first talk about Django. Django was born in 1910, and then he eventually died. He died in 1953 at the age of 43. And he's the guy who basically invented the style of Gypsy Jazz. I would say he moved over when he first started to hear Louis Armstrong on the radio. So I would guess this would be around 1928 or so. It was approximately when he started to move over to trying to make this swing music that he was hearing on the radio. So that's kind of the beginnings, but of when the Gypsy Jazz thing began. But again, the beginning of the stuff was these valses, valses, and why don't we play one of them, a musette? Sure. And they were generally done with the guitars. Actually, Django originally was a banjo player, and then he would play some guitar, so they basically accompanied an accordion. So this is the origin, and we'll have Frank play.
Even when they got Gypsy Jazz, there was no accordion, really, for quite a while.
Right, they ended up having Petrilli, but this is where this is what Django was originally doing. This style of music, which is the valse. And so this song is called Indifference, or
The most famous
Indifference.
musette waltz.
Django was playing before he found Louis Armstrong and created the quartet, or quintet, hot club, 5 players, which he used his brother. Yuzia Ferre was also on rhythm guitar. There was Stephen Grappelli on violin. And so it was, and bass. Do you know what the bass player's name was? Doesn't matter, he's a bass player.
Right.
So, anyway, from there he started to play, so at the age of around 18 or 19, he was in a fire. Is anyone aware of the fire he was in? Okay. So what happens is his wife was making artificial flowers back then.
No, his girlfriend.
His girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, his wife had left and it was his girlfriend who did this.
Ah.
Still alive at age 18.
Yeah.
Because later the wife came back
Uh-huh.
and gave him real flowers. Anyway,
Thanks.
yeah.
So, anyway, there's a fire, and he rushes in to save his girlfriend, and gets burnt in the process, his whole body, and it gets his fingers kind of fused together. So he's now playing stuff with 2 fingers. He had to rework and learn this whole new way of playing guitar. And he had to come up with new picking patterns, and to create just ways that he get around guitar.
Which he was learning while he was recovering, I think.
Right,
Or
so-
turning.
He would play like for a diminished scale, that kind of thing. You'll also notice that these guitars, even though we're amped, are still pretty loud. The idea is that even if we were playing acoustically, you could hear it in a dance hall because the instruments were louder than guitar in general, until Django came along and went, well, if we do everything with a rest stroke, you would have a lot more volume and you could hear the instrument. So he created this whole technique of being loud enough and also how to play with just a few fingers, to play all these fast, incredible runs that nobody had thought of before. In fact, people at the time, when they heard them on recordings, couldn't believe that a human was actually doing this kind of stuff. But he was doing it. At this point, do we have guitar players in this audience? Okay. So, I guess I can kind of bore the other people who aren't guitar players.
Or even the guitar players.
Or you can do all four. Okay. So some of the stuff that he does, you Wes Montgomery, hear Wes do octaves, right? They're nice and soft and whatever. But Django thinks of them more like a big band. So you can hear he's getting these. He's getting that kind of sound out of it. And he's also tremoloing chords. That wasn't happening before then. And we can demonstrate that actually with our next song. The next song is Minor Swing, which is like one of his big hits. We're playing only songs which are either big hits or show that different style that people would expect from Django. So let's do Minor Swing. Do you want the melody? I'll do the harmony?
Sure.
Okay. Want to count it?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
chordal stuff, which is a lot of, what style would you say also?
That's an Alan Roos.
Alan Roos style.
Alan Roos, yeah.
And then I tried to do some of the Django stuff with the and the Lasana. So Django would create stuff like those kind of fast runs on one string, or you go, which is kind of a Django thing. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Very dissonant, but it also works. So one of the things that you get from this technique, if you're a guitar player, is you always are playing with a downstroke for volume, but then there are other patterns you can create. So you hear us play like up, down, so all the up, down, down, and then it allows you to create. And it sounds like you're playing incredibly fast and you're just going. Right, so that's a very typical thing for Gypsy Jazz. But once you have that pattern down, you can do lots of other stuff. So it gives you a lot of what sounds coming out sounds very complicated is actually pretty simple to play once you have those picking patterns figured out. And Django had those patterns figured out, and that's where we kind of get those. So, is there any questions so far?
20 years of playing. That's very simple after 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we noticed, that a lot of the players from Europe, the Gypsy Jazz players, they didn't come from rock. They don't come from, they come from playing Gypsy Jazz, and a lot of them, it's all kinetic, where they don't read, they don't know theory. Well, they know theory, but they don't know theory from a scholastic standpoint. As a matter of fact, one of the stories for Django was he was illiterate. He could not read or write, and he was enthralled one day. He had to learn how to sign his name because he had contracts, and without signing your name on a contract, of course, the contract is void. So he had to learn how to sign a contract. It was like amazing. He could now sign his name. He was in a hotel room, and when they left the hotel room, it was totally covered with him practicing his name on the walls. So that is a quip. Another famous quip was he finally got to go to America. He was looking forward to going to America, and he needed to look over the contract. And he was looking it over with the people there, and Stefan Grappelli was looking over, who was literate, his violinist. And they get past the first two paragraphs. He gets to the third paragraph. He's going, I don't know. No, I don't know. And Grappelli rips from him, and he goes, well, this is where they're putting us up at the Waldorf Astoria in the penthouse, and they're feeding us all our meals. Will you sign the contract? So that's, Django was a bit of a character. I've noticed a lot of the players, great players, are not always people who want to use as role models, for human life, but play great. There are some good role models, I think, players too, but certainly there have been others. Any questions? Yes?
I hear tell that Django also had to reinvent new chords that his
Oh.
could do.
Thanks. Yeah.
Show some Django chords.
He got some Django chords, because he would also use his thumb a lot. So
Let's show a major chord in a minor. Let's show a major 6 and a minor 6.
well, my major 6, I do the traditional ones for the rhythm players. And that also reminds me, there's a thing called La Pompe. Does anyone know what La Pompe is? La Pompe is the rhythm style that drives this. But you notice we don't have a drummer, but the music hopefully is still driving. So it's a, and in French that's called La Pompe. So, yeah. So that, by the way, is that's a 6 chord, and the idea is to cover as much. You'll notice I'm covering the entire bottom range. Or if I had a, do you want to show them Django?
Yeah, show the Django. So again, Django had these two fingers function normally, and these two fingers are sort of melted. He could use these to play a few notes and chords. So when he was doing major chords, a lot of the time, like you want to play a G major chord, he would not be able to play a bar chord like this, I don't think. But he could do this. Getting your thumb over the root, covering 2 notes with your middle finger, index finger, and then these 2 fused fingers can sort of plop down on the top 2 strings. So I do it a little different than Django. That's a little easier for me to grab, but you'll hear a lot of major chords in Gypsy Jazz as being major 6 chords. And minor chords as minor 6 chords.
Yeah. A lot of the modern players will try to cover 2 strings with 1 finger, like you do that, right? And I that. So I'm not even using my pinch one. But anyway, that's those are pretty standard. This one is really so you can actually play all the minor swing with 1 structure. The second song we played.
Let's play all minor swing using this shape.
Okay. Shall I play the melody? Or no,
Let's just play it together. If you break this shape, you lose.
okay, I won't break the shape.
Okay, our fingers are going to stay in that shape. We're going to move around the entire. Ready?
And our fingers will not
2,
move.
1, 2, 3.
Kind of like a cheap trick. But one of the cool things is you start to realize how much some of these shapes are other chords. And you start to relate and go like, okay, if that is that, like this, B minor 6 is really an E7, then you can start to come up with other ways to do things. So it's very theoretical in a way, right? So, anyway, that's La Pomp, and that's some chords. Any other questions? Yes?
What other genres were influenced by this type of jazz? Because it seems like bluegrass is a similar style of music. Are there any other genres that were influenced by Gypsy Jazz?
Well, I think bluegrass actually probably has roots in Ireland.
Yeah.
You would know about that, right? I'm sure. Oh, okay. And it was around well before Gypsy Jazz. So I think that's where bluegrass has its origins. And Gypsy Jazz origins really come from Django listening to American classics and
When it
also
first
New
came out on
Orleans.
records, it was actually the Hot Club of France.
Yeah.
The rich guys, they would get the records first. They would all get around, they would invite Django and his buddies to listen to a record that they just got because they had the money for the record. And they would listen to it, Duke Ellington or Louis Armstrong, and they would go back and try to copy it. So mostly American standards, a lot of them. But they would copy them, not hear them totally correct, and they don't have drums, and so they improvised,
But I think to your point, I think bluegrass and Gypsy Jazz have pretty separate origins. They did both end up with that sort of backbeat, chunky sound on the instruments.
But there's a lot of guys who play both, right?
Now there are.
Now there are.
Now there are. Yeah, but back in the day, they hadn't even heard of each other.
No.
One thing about Gypsy Jazz is its preponderance of minor keys. And I came to Gypsy Jazz a dozen years ago, having played mostly Great American Songbook and straight ahead jazz. And I was struck with how many minor keys I had to all of a sudden play in. And a large part of that comes from what we might mistakenly call the Gypsy tradition, more accurately the Romani tradition, the tribe of people that Django came from. And all what you might grossly throw into a general lump as gypsy music, which is so full of minor keys and modal keys that sound very minor and somewhat exotic to our ears. And so I hear that influence from the early gypsy jazz creeping into some of the more modern bluegrass styles, like stuff David Grisman might play, with his dog music, if you're familiar with that. And so there's definitely been a lot of cross-pollination over the years, but as Ray said, probably and Craig, bluegrass started centuries ago, I think, based more in a Celtic tradition.
One thing is looking about
Why'd you stop?
why did I stop? It's, the reading of the 2/4 is really quite different. I found, I mean, even for myself, playing on La Pompe, it looks so simple. But getting the right swing and the right amount of kind of crunch on the bottom, it's tricky. It's until you lock in with it. It can be a little bit, it could be a little nerve-wracking because you go, well, I should have this. This is just a, but it turns out to be a little bit elusive until you find the groove. I haven't found anyone who gets it immediately.
No, if you play it like bluegrass, you're kicked out of the jam.
Yeah, you're done. Just read too ringy. This has
Some more
space.
questions over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are now gypsies in Ireland, and I think they've been there for a long time. They call them the Tinkers, I think.
I think that's a
And
different
there
word.
are, I think maybe also influenced by klezmer too, because there are Jewish clans in Scotland, and I assume in Ireland too, with their own tartans and everything. And I really hear the influence of klezmer Jewish fiddlers in Irish music and bluegrass.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a relationship between Gypsy Jazz and bluegrass.
Stefan Grappelli, though?
What?
See, Stefan Grappelli was the first great jazz violinist.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know how he's the first or not, but he was
Well,
one of the early ones.
and certainly in Europe.
Yeah, and he was the partner of Django always. But he was a jazz player. I mean, I don't hear any Irish.
I'm not saying he was any kind of.
But I don't hear any of that.
But then again, if you want to talk about klezmer, we have a song called Dark Eyes. We're gonna.
There is,
And that
there's
is
some
very,
Eastern
very
European
klezmer.
influence, for sure. That for sure, like this song that we'll do now.
We'll do it now because,
And it's a minor tune.
oh, we have a question.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, I'm an old time style banjo player,
Yeah.
so that's not bluegrass, but, you know, the step
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, I think I do kind of hear where the relationship is coming in, because we have our equivalent of the pomp, which is the bum ditty, right? It's built all off of banjo, so it's really kind of the same rhythm, just a little less swung, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of hear the similarity of, like, the foundation is really kind of the exact same thing, just less swung in our case versus, you know, way more swung here in Gypsy Jazz.
Yeah, that would make sense, especially, Django wasn't a banjo player originally, so.
I've been playing 5-string banjo or more akin to like 4-string, like you see with tenor and plectrum banjos now.
Django was playing a 6-string banjo.
Oh.
He was playing a guitar banjo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the banjo player in Louis Armstrong's band would play also.
Ready?
But yeah, let's do it.
So we'll do Dark Eyes, right?
Thank
I think that's klezmer-esque.
Okay, I won't say that again. Any more questions after seeing that? Yes.
What would you say, well, you mentioned earlier that kind of defining characteristic of Gypsy Jazz harmony is like the 6 chord
Yeah, oh, yes.
and diminished chords.
Lots of diminish.
I hear a lot of like diminished runs. Is there anything else?
Whole tones, so we haven't probably played a lot of tones, yeah. That kind of. So the lot of whole tones, they're good for. They're good for that picking pattern too, because it's just like. So yeah, a lot of diminish. I was just thinking about this the other day, like no jazz scale. So you can have a run like which would kind of be out of the a normal jazz scale, but in this case, it's a lot of flat 5 substitution. So something like this is or that kind of, which is a minor chord. You play, like, say, a B flat minor over an A7, gives you the flat 5 kind of thing, kind of sound.
You want me to loop it to flat and play that a few times?
Sure.
How about it?
Gives you that kind of a sound. And that's a very typical Django. It's nice. So that gives that same sound, and that's very typical of Gypsy Jazz, of having that flat 5 substitution. And so that's, there's not a lot of scales, actually. There is a little bit of Django will play scales, sometimes though it's out of open strings. He uses a lot of open strings. So you'll get scales out of that, but again, he doesn't think much in scales. He's mostly thinking of these dominant type of or diminished type of arpeggios. Let's see what else. So yeah, a lot of minors, no minor 7s, all minor 6.
Oh yeah. Let me say something about that.
Okay.
If you have a major chord in Gypsy Jazz, you're probably going to play either major triad or major 6. If you play a major 7 chord, it sounds like you went to jazz school.
Right. We're trying to avoid that.
We're trying to avoid that. And if you have a minor chord, you probably want to play minor 6, minor triad. If you play minor 7th, sounds like you went to jazz school. Yeah. You're allowed to play minor 7s in a 2-5-1 though, as the 2 chord and 2-5. That's okay.
But Django will go to a 7 in his solos. He'll go. So you got this, but it still goes. But still, it's nice to target it like. And it just has this lovely sound that you kind of don't hear in jazz these days. And I think a lot of jazz players, it may sound old, but it's music doesn't have an ego. If it sounds good, it is good. And I think more players could be incorporating this style into their more modern jazz. Any disagreement in this band?
Not with you. Are there any other questions or just inquiries? Yes.
I was wondering how you guys specifically need to navigate comping. I noticed during the accordion solo during the minor blues, but I was just noticing how you guys navigate that. With both of you guys doing that same La Pompe style,
Yeah.
It didn't feel jumbled at all. I was just curious as to how you guys accomplished that.
Which one was that?
Well,
We tried to jumble it.
I'll tackle
Okay.
a response to that. In Django's band, there were 2 rhythm guitar players playing La Pompe simultaneously. So we actually don't have enough guitarists here.
He's
Yeah.
laughing, he thinks.
I think
there's
there's
too many.
perhaps 1 to 2 together.
So the the classic hot club configuration is 3 guitars, bass, and violin. And when 2 guitars are playing at the same time, it sounds really, really full and grooving. And I think what Craig and I usually end up doing, we don't even really discuss it, but usually one of us will play a little more straight rhythm, and then the other person will kind of interject some fills and stuff into that. But we're both guitar players, so we both want to fill all the time. Resist that urge.
Yeah, if I hear him filling, I go immediately back to just playing straight, and Ray does the same thing.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling he goes straight, and we just kind of play our way through it, and sometimes we get lucky.
That's the jazz part. It's spontaneous.
So, any other questions? Yes?
So I was noticing a lot in your guys' guitar solos. There's like way more chord usage, I guess, than a lot of other solos in almost any other genre. So I wanted to ask more specifically of like how that works. Because kind of what I'm getting from when like one guitar or someone is taking a solo, all the rest kind of have like at any given moment at least like one chord that they're kind of suggesting. So how does that work when you're using other chords in your solo, so to speak?
You give your answer and I'll give my answer.
Okay. Hopefully, when, let's say I'm playing a solo and I'm doing a lot of chords, Ray's generally keeping it straight, especially if he hears me starting to go off on a bunch of chord stuff. So it works to superimpose if the other rhythm player is not telling me what to play. And if Ray's just going, he's not telling me what to play, so at that point I can go. But if he was doing that and I was doing that, then we'd have a jumbled mess.
That's a good answer.
Okay.
Craig goes outside a little bit, his background, so when he starts doing a chord solo, I'm backing off.
Yeah, the more outside someone gets, the more inside the rest of us try.
I'm just gonna go to single.
Unless we hear immediately what he's doing, and then I'm like, oh, I know this one he's gonna do, and then sometimes I'll try to catch it just to be fun. But I think the good response if someone's going way outside and you don't know what they're doing is be as inside as possible.
You hold it down.
Yeah.
What it means. It's like a drummer just saying, okay, don't do too many fills. Just
Yeah.
keep the groove going. So that's kind of what the deal is there. Yes.
Kind of curious, since in the origins it didn't have accordion, how you find your role and where, like, what do you kind of draw from to kind of pick your role?
Good question. There's a camp called Django in June. That's why I started learning this really. And the cool thing for me was, an accordion sort of fits in well with this sonically. It sort of warms up the sound a little bit. And I'm the only one who can really sustain. And I'm totally acoustic, so right now, I'll use that. But, so, the accordion players, typically they're like solo players, they don't really know, not many can swing and they play so loud. So it was hard because there's two rhythm players a lot of times, and I gotta find a spot in between if I wanna play. So, and I had to develop that. A lot of padding, and then when they play rhythm, I'll go in, I'll find the slots in between them, Like, if we play, Way to Be Good, just the rhythm, the rhythm?
Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
I have a comment about the last 2 questions. About chords and rhythm and fitting in with the accordion and other instruments. One thing about these kinds of guitars is that they have, they don't really fill up the spectrum. They're pretty bright. They're not super bassy. They're very percussive, so when we're playing rhythm, it's almost like they function more like a snare drum, like playing brushes on a snare, a hi-hat, with a little suggestion of harmony mixed in with the percussive element. So unless we're like really cranking up a magnetic pickup, where it makes it a little fatter, I don't think these guitars totally dominate the frequency spectrum, which is why you can keep adding more rhythm guitars to a band. And also, to your point about playing chords and solos, because the sound of these guitars is pretty thin, sometimes you get a little tired of hearing yourself play clink clink, little tiny single notes, and it feels good to fill up your space and solos a little more with a larger frequency spectrum. So that's where all the chord soloing comes in.
A lot of the chord soloing happens toward the end of the solo too, because you're getting louder. So and the band's getting louder. So a lot of times you'll hear the guitar solos with the chordal stuff toward the end of the solo, more often than at the beginning.
So the banjo has a similar issue.
Were concertinas used with the Gypsy Jazz or
Not so much.
no?
I mean, it's all, a little bit, but I haven't seen concertina players. I mean, I've been to camps with concertina players, and I know one
Yeah.
who played some Gypsy Jazz, but it's not real common. They're quiet too, concertinas, so,
What you did was just wonderful.
yeah.
And the way you commented with, some staccato stuff and also some sustains.
Sometimes I almost consider what Frank's doing is like, and you guys play funk, right? And you have to be able to make a groove happen. You've got to find something that doesn't get in the way of something else. It's kind of a very similar mind space if you were playing funk to what Frank is doing. And you were actually an organ player too.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, okay, this is my spot. This is where I'm going to find myself.
Did you notice that when Frank was doing his demonstration, he's playing a lot of upbeats, he's playing a lot of syncopations. The guitars are basically hammering 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And the bass, I can either walk the line and play 1, 2, 3, 4, or just, just the old oom-pop that the tuba does. And so Frank's playing da, 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 which adds that nice degree of pushing the beat along, and it helps propel it at any tempo.
More questions or shall we play more?
Way more.
Okay.
That's my vote.
Okay, so the next song we have is a song written by Django called Jubilant Bolero, and the reason we're playing is we played all swing so far, so he created a bolero. And
It's in no way a traditional bolero.
no.
And you wrote boxes too, gypsy boxes, which.
I think he,
What?
I think Django didn't write a bossa. I think that came later.
no, he
Yeah.
didn't write bosses.
The bossa nova came.
Yeah, I think the Gypsy bossa
He
came
didn't do
later,
it.
like
He didn't do it.
Dorado.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's kind of like when we play Yardbird Suite, right?
Yeah.
There's no suite. There's just
It's
a song that you got with your song. Okay, so Jubilant Bolero, something we never play, but we figured we'd play it for this.
That's the other thing that's cool about Gypsy Jazz. You can go any place. It's sort of centered around the tournament.
Yeah,
You
you could go to Japan and not know anyone, but you could speak Gypsy Jazz. And if they play Gypsy Jazz, they'll know what to do, and if they don't, they'll just.
And even if American Standard, which most of them are, they know it.
Yeah.
You go to the Netherlands or France or any place, really, and play the same, they're not speaking, they play the same tunes. You start playing a tune and they're going to be right with you.
And they'll know the name of the tune.
Yeah.
So, that's what you need. Ready?
Mhm.
1, 2, 4.
show how you can use the Hendrix chord.
Okay.
Show the Django way of using the Hendrix chord. This one's great. This is, sorry, everyone who's not a guitar. Let's do, okay, well, let me use an E7 sharp 9 for this. So we're going to use E flat. There's a 2, 5, 1 and E flat. Django might do this. So you can use the Hendrix chord. I'm just going to do a slow. Okay, here's your 2. Here's the Hendrix chord. Here's your 1. That's Django's way of doing it. Play the Hendrix chord a half step above where you're going to. Sounds very Django. And if you want to get extra crunchy, grab the 5th in the bass below it. Very Gypsy Jazz. Okay.
So, how are we doing on time, by the way?
We can keep going a little bit.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, we're gonna ask another, see if there's any other questions.
I was just wondering what the name of the last song you guys played was.
Troubadour Bolero?
Trouble.
Troubadour.
No.
This is why I'm not usually allowed to speak.
A lot of the names are in French, and I don't think any of this.
I got the Bolero part right.
Yeah.
If anyone comes to our concert tonight, we will not play any of this material that you've heard today.
You were saving the good songs for tonight.
No.
We do a lot of originals that are sort of gypsy fusion, you might say. So,
Yeah.
along with some standards.
Substandards?
Some
sorry.
standards.
Style came along a little bit later, called the bossa, which is people call Gypsy bossa. There is also Gypsy funk, which is right. That's Gypsy funk. But do you want to play just some Gypsy funk?
No.
Pretty sunny.
Let's go on with this one.
Well, this one's from Bossa Dorado. So we're going to do a bossa. These are very typical. Django didn't play bossas, but this is.
I mean, this is like 80s.
Yeah.
We're fast forwarding like several decades after Django.
When was this written?
Well, Dorado, I mean, it's Dorado.
Dorado's
Yeah.
singing, so probably 80s, I would assume.
Yeah. So we're going to fast forward. So this is what is considered a Gypsy bossa. And
It has really nothing to do with actual bossa nova. It's just the name of this groove, which is not swing.
plays like that. And that's about as much real bossa as you get. The rest of the rhythm is as Ray said, kind of grid-like and doesn't swing like you might expect from a Brazilian or an Americanized Brazilian bossa.
Traditional bossa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that you ended that with the same notes that blue bossa ends with. Da-da-da-da-da-da. That's, I mean, you know, it's just funny that with that.
Is that conscious or unconscious, Ray?
I had to do an ending that I thought we would all understand.
We don't play the song in concert, we just figured this was a good one also for the seminar.
Maybe one last piece, and then we'll, Pavel will have time for it.
Okay, anything you guys would like?
Let's do Georgia.
George, can we,
Sweet
George?
Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Just in G.
Oh, okay. Yeah, G, right.
Okay.
he had a weird vibrato, but it's a fast vibrato, almost like a clarinet one. So that's another thing to look at. Django created probably vibrato for guitar. And he also created kind of distortion for guitar too.
Oh, yeah. I think early tubing amps, Django sounded like Angus and Malcolm Young.
Yeah, it was a great sound. Yeah, anyway.
And all that with like 2.5 fingers. It's crazy. So if you want to hear more, you have to come tonight. And where is it at again? The location?
Lutheran Church?
Yeah, Mount Carmel Lutheran, Fredericks, off of Grand Avenue.
Yeah, over there near the cafe. So, thanks again, guys. What a great introduction to Gypsy Jazz.
Thank you.